The train lurched forward with a metallic screech that echoed my fracturing heart, hurtling me away from the ghosts of New York City I'd left behind in a haze of shattered family dinners and whispered accusations. I was Alex Harper, 28 years old, clutching a one-way ticket to anywhere but home, my knuckles white against the worn leather of my backpack as if it could anchor me to some semblance of sanity. And then he sat down, that stranger with eyes like storm-tossed seas, sliding into the seat beside me just as the conductor's call sliced through the Vienna station fog, sealing our fates in that narrow compartment of steel and secrets. His presence hit me like a sudden gust through an open window, warm, uninvited, alive. He smelled of fresh coffee and charcoal pencils, a scent that cut through the stale air of the sleeper car like a promise of something real. I glanced sideways, trying not to stare, but his profile demanded it, sharp jawline dusted with stubble, lips curved in a half-smile as he adjusted his sketchbook on his knee. He caught me looking, and those blue eyes locked onto mine, holding them with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. "Rough morning?" he asked, his voice low and accented, laced with the rolling vowels of someone who spoke English like a secret melody. I swallowed hard, my throat dry from the all-nighter I'd pulled nursing a flask of cheap whiskey in a dingy hostel. "You could say that," I muttered, forcing a grin that felt like cracking ice. "Escaping a life I didn't sign up for." "You." He tilted his head, studying me as if I were one of his drawings, lines and shadows begging to be captured. "Chasing one I might," he replied, his words hanging between us like smoke. "Matej, that was his name." He offered it casually, like handing over a key. 32, an artist from Prague, heading home after a restless exhibition in Vienna, where his paintings of fractured lovers had sold out, but left him hollow. We were strangers, yes, but in that first exchange, the air thickened with the weight of shared silences, the kind that whisper you're not alone in your unraveling. As the train picked up speed, slicing through the Austrian hills dotted with crumbling castles that looked like forgotten dreams, Matej flipped open his sketchbook. The pages were a riot of emotion, bold strokes of lovers entwined in twilight, faces twisted in ecstasy and agony, colors bleeding into one another like hearts refusing to stay contained. "Art's my escape," he said, not looking up, his pencil dancing across a fresh page. "Yours?" I hesitated, the words I'd buried under layers of denial bubbling up. "Back in Brooklyn, I've been the golden boy, graphic designer by day, closeted by necessity, loving men in shadows while my conservative parents painted pictures of the perfect straight son. Wife, kids, the white picket fence lie." The blow-up had come 2 weeks ago, over a family Easter brunch where my sister's offhand joke about those gay parades cracked open the dam. I confessed, raw and trembling, and my father's face had turned to stone. "You're not my son anymore." Mother had sobbed, but it was his silence that followed me across the Atlantic, a void louder than any scream. Writing, I lied at first, tapping my journal. But Matej's gaze pulled the truth free, gentle as a tide. Stories about people who find their way back to themselves. Or maybe just away from everyone else. He nodded, his pencil pausing. "Prague's good for that. The city's a labyrinth. Old stones that remember every heartbreak, every stolen kiss in hidden alleys." His voice dipped, and I wondered what shadows chased him. We talked then, halting at first, like two rivers testing their merge. He shared sketches of his life. Orphaned young, raised by a grandmother who spun tales of Velvet Revolution heroes, now grappling with a gallery world that adored his queer-themed works but questioned his authenticity because he'd only come out last year after a lover's betrayal in Berlin shattered his carefully built walls. "Love's a thief," he said, tracing a line that blurred two faces into one. "Steals your breath, then leaves you gasping." The compartment grew warmer as afternoon sun slanted in, gilding the edges of our confessions. Outside, the landscape shifted from tidy vineyards to denser forests, the tracks humming a rhythm that synced with my heartbeat. Matej's laughter came easy when I admitted my disastrous attempt at hitchhiking from Paris, ending with a farmer who mistook me for a lost tourist and fed me sauerkraut for hours. "Americans," he teased, his knee brushing mine accidentally. Or was it? Sending a spark up my spine I hadn't felt since that forbidden night in college with a roommate whose touch I'd craved for months after. I pulled back, old habits dying hard, but he noticed, his expression softening. "Hey, no rush. Trains like this, they're for the in-between. Limbo where truths slip out easier." By evening, as we shared a thermos of his grandmother's herbal tea, chamomile laced with honey that tasted like comfort, we were trading deeper scars. Mine, the ex-boyfriend who'd ghosted after I wouldn't go public, leaving me to question if love was just another performance. His, the father he'd never known, rumored to have fled during the communist era, leaving whispers of shame that echoed in Matej's fear of commitment. I paint passion, he confessed, voice barely above the train's rattle. But living it terrifies me. Our hands found each other then, tentative, fingers interlacing over the armrest like roots seeking soil. The touch was electric, a quiet thunder that promised storm, and in that moment, with the Czech border slipping past like a sigh, I felt seen, not as the broken son, but as Alex, whole and wanting. Night fell heavy, the train's lights casting golden pools on our faces as we dimmed the overheads. Matej pulled out a deck of cards, worn edges speaking of countless solitary games, and taught me a Czech variant of rummy, where losers owe truths. I lost the first round spectacularly, cards fanning out like my failed resolutions. Truth, he prompted, leaning closer, his breath warm against my ear. What's the one thing you'd change about your escape? I thought of the airport goodbye I'd skipped, the voicemail from Mom pleading forgiveness I wasn't ready to grant. I'd leave the guilt behind, I whispered. Pack lighter. He won the next, revealing his own. A canvas half-finished in his studio, a self-portrait with a faceless lover, abandoned because it hurt too much to complete. Maybe you'll finish it, I said, and our eyes met, the space between us shrinking to nothing. Sleep came in fits, the train sway lulling us into a fragile truce with our demons. I woke once to find him sketching me by moonlight filtering through the curtains. My face relaxed, vulnerable, captured in soft grays that made me look like a man on the verge of flight. Beautiful, he murmured when I stirred, not pulling away. My heart hammered, desire coiling tight as a spring. We'd kissed thin, slow and searching, lips meeting like long-lost friends, his hand cupping my jaw with a tenderness that unraveled me. It was chaste at first, a brush of exploration, but deepened into something fierce, tongues tasting salt and sweetness, bodies pressing close in the confined space. The world outside blurred, villages flickering past like fireflies, but in that car, it was just us two souls colliding in the dark. Dawn broke with a vengeance, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds as the train neared the Elbe River's bend. We'd barely slept, tangled in whispers and stolen caresses, clothes rumpled but hearts alight. Matej traced patterns on my arm, lazy swirls that spoke of futures unwritten. Prague awaits, he said, voice husky from lack of rest. My city, let me show you its secrets. The bridges where lovers etch promises, the cafes where revolutions brewed over coffee. I nodded, the pull toward him stronger than the track's inexorable pull. But as the outskirts of the city loomed, spires piercing the mist like spears of hope, a shadow crept in. My phone buzzed, a text from my father, curt and cutting, come home. Fix this. The words landed like a punch, yanking me back to the life I'd fled. Panic surged, hot and familiar. What was this? Some interlude? A train track fantasy destined to derail at the platform. Matej sensed it, his thumbs stilling on my skin. Alex, I showed him a message, words blurring through unshed tears. He doesn't get it. Thinks it's a phase, a mistake I can undo. Matej's face hardened, not with anger, but resolve. Then let Prague be your phase. Or better, your beginning. He pulled me into his chest, heartbeat steady against mine. And for the first time, I let myself believe in anchors forged in motion. The train slowed, brakes hissing like reluctant confessions, as Prague unfolded before us. The vault of a river glittering under Charles Bridge's stone arches, the castle hill crowned in eternal vigil. We stepped off together, hands linked defiantly, backpacks slung like talismans. But the K-drama wasn't over. Fate, that cruel curator, had one more twist. As we navigated the bustling Hlavny Nadratsi station, thronged with tourists and locals alike, a figure emerged from the crowd. My ex, Jordan, disheveled and desperate, eyes wild from a transatlantic pursuit he'd tracked via my sporadic social posts. Alex, what the hell? You vanish, and I find you here with him. The confrontation exploded in the station's echoey vastness, Jordan's voice rising like a siren, drawing stares from passers-by. You're throwing everything away for some European fling? After us. His words sliced deep, dredging up the nights we'd hidden in my tiny apartment. Love whispered in the dark, but never claimed in light. Matej stood firm beside me, his grip a lifeline, but I felt the fracture, old wounds reopening, the fear that I'd always run, never stand. Jordan, it's over, I said, voice steadier than I felt. You left because I couldn't be your secret. This us, it's real. Jordan lunged, not violent but pleading, grabbing my arm with a grip born of possession. He's using you. Wake up. Chaos erupted then, a scuffle that drew security, shouts bouncing off the vaulted ceilings like accusations. Matej pulled me back, his body a shield, but in the melee, Jordan's elbow caught my jaw, a sharp crack that tasted of blood and regret. Guards intervened, hauling Jordan away amid his frantic apologies. I just wanted you back, leaving me shaken, lips swelling, but strangely liberated. Matej led me to a quiet bench, dabbing at the cut with his scarf, his touch a balm. You okay? He asked, eyes searching mine. I nodded, the adrenaline fading into clarity. More than. That was the end I needed. We emerged into Prague's embrace, the city a living canvas of Baroque spires and cobblestone whispers. Matej's apartment was a garret near the old town square, walls papered in sketches and half-finished oils that breathed life into every corner. Nudes in repose, cityscapes at dusk, abstracts of longing in crimson and indigo. Home, he said simply, unlocking the door to a space that smelled of turpentine and rain-soaked stone. I dropped my bag, the weight of continents lifting, and pulled him close. Our kiss this time was fire, urgent, unapologetic, bodies crashing together on the worn rug, clothes shedding like old skins. His hands mapped me with artist precision, tracing collarbones, dipping lower, eliciting gasps that echoed off the rafters. I tasted salt on his neck, felt the tremor in his thighs as I explored, our rhythms syncing like the train's forgotten lullaby. It was messy, fervent, a claiming that healed as it hurt, whispers of stay, mingling with moans until exhaustion claimed us, entwined in sheets that smelled of him. Days blurred into a haze of rediscovery. Mornings, we'd wander the Jewish quarter synagogues, their silent stones holding echoes of resilience that mirrored our own fragile triumphs. Matej sketched me amid the tombstones, capturing the light in my eyes that hadn't dimmed since Vienna. Afternoons in the cafes of Malastrana, sipping slivovitz that burned sweet, we'd trade stories of what-ifs. What if my father called again? What if his gallery demanded he toned down the queer fire in his work? Evenings on the bridge, as street musicians played haunting violin strains, we'd watch the river carry away our doubts, fingers laced, kisses stolen under the statue's watchful gaze. But shadows lingered. A letter arrived from New York, my mother's handwriting, tentative olive branch. We're trying, son. Come back when you're ready. It cracked something open, tears I hadn't allowed since the confession, spilling as Matej held me. Humanity's in the trying, he murmured, echoing his grandmother's wisdom. Forgive, but don't forget your worth. Inspired, I penned a response. Not surrender, but boundaries. I love you, but this is me now. Meet me here, or let me go. Sending it felt like shedding chains, the postbox a portal to peace. Yet Kitsch 10 brewed anew when Matej's ex, Tomas, surfaced, a brooding sculptor from his Berlin days, crashing a gallery opening where Matej's new series debuted. Interludes, portraits of fleeting connections, the centerpiece a double canvas of two men on a train, faces blurred in motion but souls sharp as knives. Tomas cornered us in the dimly lit space, wine glass trembling in his fist. You replace me with this American tourist? After I bared everything. His voice dripped venom, eyes raking over me like an intruder. Matej stiffened, old wounds flaring. You left, Tomas. Broke me to fit your straight facade. The argument escalated, words flying like shards, accusations of betrayal. Please masked his rage, until Tomas shoved a easel, canvases crashing in a symphony of ruin. I stepped in then, heart pounding, pulling Matej behind me. Enough. Love isn't a competition, it's choice. Security escorted Tomas out, but the damage lingered in Matej's haunted gaze as we salvaged the pieces. Back home, over candlelight and chamomile, he confessed the full scar. Tomas had outed him publicly after their split, costing gigs, friends, a fragile peace. I built walls higher after that. I cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears. Then let me help tear them down. Together. That night, we made love slower, reverent, exploring with whispers and sighs, bodies a dialogue of trust rebuilt. His release came with a sob, mine in quiet surrender, forging us anew in vulnerability's forge. Weeks turned, Prague weaving us into its tapestry. I found work freelancing designs for local artisans, my portfolio blooming with Czech motifs, Gothic swirls, alchemical symbols of transformation. Matej's show sold out, critics praising the raw humanity in his interludes, whispers of international buzz reaching from New York to Berlin. We hosted dinners with his eclectic circle, a transgender poet with verses like lightning, a lesbian couple running a queer bookstore, their laughter a chorus against isolation. In their midst, I glimpsed the family I'd lost and gained. The true test came with my parents' visit, tentative footsteps across the Atlantic prompted by my letter. They arrived at the airport wide-eyed, jet lag, my father's jaw set but eyes softer. We met at a riverside bistro, the Vltava murmuring mediation. Awkward silences stretched, broken by Matej's grace, offering sketches of Prague's bridges as metaphors for connection, sharing his own journey from Soviet-era silences to open-hearted art. Mother teared up at his tail, reaching for my hand. We were scared, Alex, of losing you to a world we didn't understand. Father cleared his throat, voice gruff. Seeing you here. Happy. That's what matters. If he makes you that way. It wasn't absolution, but a bridge, rickety but spanning the chasm. As they departed, hugs lingering longer than grudges, I turned to Matej under the airport's vast dome. You did that. Gave him humanity back to me. He smiled, that storm sea gaze clear now. We did. Together. The train to Prague had been our origin, but this was our destination. Not an end, but an endless becoming. In the city's labyrinth, we'd found not just each other, but the courage to claim lives unapologetic, love as revolution, proving that even strangers, given a chance, can rewrite the world's cruel scripts into stories of grace. Our life unfolded like one of Matej's canvases, layered, vibrant, unafraid. Summers picnicking in Petrin Hills orchards, autumns tracing Viserad's ruins where legends of star-crossed souls echoed our own. I wrote my first novel there, chapters born from our nights, a queer odyssey across borders, hearts mending in transit. Matej illustrated it, his lines breathing life into my words, our collaboration a testament to merged worlds. Challenges came, as they do, visa hurdles, testing resolve, a homophobic heckler at a pride march forcing us to stand fiercer, family holidays blending American turkey with Czech callus in awkward but growing harmony. Each trial honed us, revealing the human core, forgiveness not as erasure, but evolution, love not possession, but partnership. One crisp spring evening, as cherry blossoms rained on Charles Bridge, Matej knelt amid the petals, a ring glinting, simple gold etched with train tracks curving into infinity. From strangers to forever, he said, voice thick. I pulled him up, kissing him fierce under the apostle's stone gaze. Yes, to all of it. Prague, that eternal witness, hummed approval. The river flowing on, carrying our story forward, a beacon for wanderers everywhere. In the space between stops, hearts find home.